It's our third day of our reporting from Shanghai Automotive, and today we want to focus a little bit on culture, on the Chinese thinking, on cooperation, and for that reason we are at the booth of SAIC, that's the Shanghai Automotive Industry Group. It's the largest automotive group in China. They sold in the first quarter more than 1 million cars, and they sold, on the one hand, VW cars, and they produce and manufactured VW cars, and on the other hand, also from the largest and biggest competitor of VW, that is General Motors, though they are together with both. That's some thinking of the Chinese. Chinese like, it seems to be competition, and competition helps them to become so dynamic, what we see in the Chinese economy. So Bea, give us a little bit insight about that thinking of the Chinese people and the culture of China to get a better understanding of that.
Well, I think there are two aspects to look into. One is indeed the culture, and the other one is, of course, the government policy, which is, especially in the automotive industry, not to be denied as one of the main driving factors for a lot of areas. But let's come back to the joint ventures and how the business is set up. So when roughly like 40 years ago, China government decided to push really forward the automotive industry and put it as a strategic industry every single 5-year plan ever since, it was to push forward in a way with cooperation, with getting the best of technology from the best, to learn from the best, to get them into China. And this is how Volkswagen, GM, Toyota, Ford later, at various timings, of course, then came into the market. But that, as we all know, was only possible with a joint venture. So every state-owned enterprise, and nowadays I would say even for the kind of privately owned car-owned brands like Geely or Great Wall, where the real private-owned type, I don't really think that. So they were only allowed to have 2 foreign partners. But that, of course, is already a competition in-house. And as you rightly said, Shangti, so SAIC, has GM and Volkswagen. FAW has Volkswagen and Toyota, so as well 2 really main competitors. I could see that on one hand side, that was really a program to have the big ones competing against each other. That, as the late Dr. Piech always said, competition encourages the business and the market driving. So this certainly was then helping these state-owned enterprises to come forward to develop their own brands better, because they had pretty much the education of their own engineers, marketers, R&D departments, very often in the joint venture parts. But this is not all. It is, yes, of course, there is, I don't know if it is really from the Chinese history, but certainly ever since China started to really pick up on speed and wanted to get back into the world leadership, or get into a world leadership in a lot of aspects, that the competition is an encouragement. And you see that not only on an industrial level and it is a corporation level, you see that on the every single day amongst the people. Knowledge is power. To share knowledge amongst each other in a department. If somebody is leaving the department, to hand over that knowledge does not really happen. You have hardly, of course, then really old people or elderly people to transfer the knowledge as well. It is just very much everybody for himself, but in the final end, it's all for the state. There is more to it, but I think this is pretty much the one hand side. Learn and get as much as possible to then come up with own brands like the renewed MG or Rowe. We can talk about this in a minute as well. Or then on the other side, produce the best cars and deliver a lot.
So thank you for that explanation, Bea. I think it fits personally perfectly in, because now we are going over to VW and we see what VW is doing in China as market leader. With 19% market share, VW Group is market leader in the largest car market in the world, in China. It is a great pleasure to have Dr. Stefan Wöllenstein with us. Dr. Stefan Wöllenstein is CEO of the Volkswagen Group China, is board member of the VW passenger car brand, and is CEO of Volkswagen China passenger cars brand. According to press reports, production capacity of almost 1 million electric cars is planned for VW Group in China. When will you reach 1 million full battery electric vehicle production in China?
And so the capacity will be in place about 24, which is pretty simple if you follow our latest press statement. So we are already SOPing our ID cars in both key joint ventures, meaning FAW Volkswagen, which is located in Changchun. They run an MEB plant in the south of China, in a city which is called Foshan, near to Guangzhou, which probably many of you do know, where we have the standard capacity of 300,000 units per year. A similar venture is happening with our second joint venture with SAIC Volkswagen, where also at their, let's say, headquarters site in Anting near Shanghai, they're running a similar 300,000 K factory. So this gives you already 600,000 units production capacity for the traditional joint ventures. Then our latest venture, which is Volkswagen Anhui, where we got the first producing entity with a majority share fully consolidated in the Volkswagen Group. This will start production in about 23 to produce the first MEB-based cars. Also, this factory has a capacity of somewhat 300 to 350,000 units per year. So this gives you almost 1 million units. And then has Audi recently announced a new let's say, venture with our long-lasting partner FAW, where also Audi will take majority shares, where Audi is going to produce the PPE-based electric vehicles, also with a production capacity of about 250,000 units in full swing. And this will lead you then beyond the 1 million towards the 1.2 million installed capacity by 24. Of course, the ramp-up of the factories will take a bit longer. As you know, you normally do not run on the first day after opening at maximum capacity lines, but we expect that by 26, 27, we will also be able to fully utilize the capacity.
You established with Volkswagen Anhui also a competence center and an e-hub mobility center. How can we imagine that? What is your plan for Volkswagen Anhui?
Yeah, Volkswagen Anhui, of course, is first of all a full-fledged, full-functional entity meant to only produce battery electric vehicles. We have here the first time the chance also, because it's a fully consolidated company, to also much deeper integrate Volkswagen Anhui into our global and also our local R&D competence grid. At the same time, we will also, without telling too much details by now, we will also probably bring different type of cars that you currently know into Volkswagen Anhui, which allows us on the marketing side also go different ways in terms of the sales model. So much more digital, certainly, as we also do the ID models in an agency form, not so much a typical franchise dealer format that we are pursuing. We will also build our own ecosystem as far as the digital service is concerned. So it is also within the brand Volkswagen, our Accelerate strategy. Volkswagen Anhui plays a major role as one of the strategic fields where we are really able to shape our interpretation of an electric mobility future in China, in a venture which is very much under our control, which will also then act and serve as a kind of a guiding principle also to our traditional two joint ventures that we are running with our long-lasting partners.
The second big topic in China is autonomous driving. The Chinese are very internet and AI savvy. What is the status of autonomous driving in China, and what is your plan? When will Audi and VW release the first autonomous driving cars?
Yeah, it's a question. You know that we normally internationally differentiate between the level 1, which we anyway have almost today in the majority of our cars, up to the level 5, where we have a robo car which has even not longer a steering wheel. So what is from our perspective the relevant cluster of what we are concentrating on is the level 2 plus functionality, which probably goes beyond our current travel assist that we already have in some models recently on offer, and then certainly the level 4 part. As far as the level 2 plus, almost level 3 functionality is concerned, we are currently cooperating with a Chinese high-tech company, which you probably know, but I do not unveil the name yet. It will be very soon announced whom we're working with, where we are bringing a serious version of a level 2 plus, level 3 kind of automated driving function in our new car generation 23-24. So it will come in the first couple of cars by 23-24. And about a year, 2 later, latest by 25, we also aim to have a level 4 autonomous driving car ready in China, also with a different Chinese local company jointly developed, so to be ready by the middle of the decade to have a level 4, and then effectively we would be also level 5 ready. It's only the question whether you want to offer a car where the customer can decide to drive themselves and leave it to the car on its personal wish, or whether it's already predefined as being a pure commercial car where the car is always driving without a chance of interference by the driver or the passenger. What we have to keep in mind, which is of course a sensitive topic that many might not have it top of their list, we often in the political world currently discussing about the trend of decoupling. And we see it in particular on the ICV concept very much already happening right now. A lot of technology that has to do with autonomous driving is currently very much US-based technology. You know, the typical contenders who are currently working on this, and we see a lot of companies, Waymo and so on, we are very much progressing on this topic with the US background. And given the current not only trade but also kind of technology war between China and the US, it is very much endangered that the China way will be identically and will fully trust on American software and hardware. Plus, China has a different concept of having automated cars being integrated in the surrounding infrastructure. So the Western concept is more that the car is completely able to do it on itself, whereas in China it's more the V2X concept, whereas also 5G comes into play. So normally automated cars will be permanently communicating with the surrounding infrastructure, meaning intelligent traffic lights, intelligent traffic control systems, certainly very much run by the government. So the entire concept and setting of an autonomous driving in China will in the years to come be substantially different from the one that we see in the more Western orientated part of the world. So therefore we have decided also to engage massively with local Chinese partners in order to cater for a situation where the, let's say, the regulatory boundaries might enforce a certain China way to ICV.
Mr. Wallenstein, thank you very much for the interview. We appreciate it very, very much to have you in that short discussion around the Shanghai auto and the most important car market in the world. Thank you. To understand China and to come closer together, trade is very important. And for trade, China has a big initiative, the One Belt, One Road initiative. What is that initiative? What does that mean for China? Bea, could you give us an insight? How do Chinese think about that important initiative?
Well, One Belt, One Road is one of the hard projects, or the hard project of Xi Jinping. You know, every Chinese president in his presidency had a project to really remain his legacy. And with the One Belt, One Road, this is, of course, quite a logic consequence of all the development in China, exporting, supporting other nations in their further development. And on the other side, then enhancing trade, international trade. So One Belt, One Road is on one hand side going on the land line, following actually the old Silk Road. And as we know, it is ending then in Duisburg even. On the railway side, but you have then, of course, as well on the sea side going the Pacific around Africa. I guess a lot of people know as well that, for example, Piraeus, the harbor of Athens, is actually in hands of Chinese organization or Chinese administration. So that is part of this, to really support the logistics on this quite big nation on export. I'm not actually sure if Germany is the bigger exporter or China. I think they're quite of head to toe. But it is something you pretty much every day read in the news about it, in any kind of way, that there is a new agreement with another company, with another country. It doesn't come without its disadvantages, it doesn't come without risks, it doesn't come without challenges. But I think overall it is something, trade is something that always was bringing new development to every country, wherever it was started. And China tries to be, yes, the initiator, but it has as well a kind of an assembly with the nations who are participating to form it rather, I don't want a confederation. It's a federation in this regard, actually.
Yes, trade is a win-win position for Europe, but also for China, so we should do it. So we have an interview with the DuisPort people, who are the one important station of that One Belt, One Road initiative. But we have also an interview in the same course with Mercuri Urval. Then the second thing is not to have the physical transport of products and goods, but also to have the right people to do a joint venture, to work together, to cooperate, and both will be seen in the next video. We have an interesting group of discussions now with Mr. Beck, who is Managing Director at the Duisburg Economic Development Agency, with Mr. Kao, who is with DuisPort, and with Klaus Steilmann, who is Global Head of Automotive at Mercuri Urval. And we do discuss a little bit closer economic relations between China and Europe and Germany. Mr. Chow, in the public, the One Belt, One Road initiative has sometimes negative reports on it. Tell us a little bit about the experience you have with the companies, the Chinese companies and the European companies working together along this One Belt, One Road initiative.
I think it is very understandable that people have different opinion about these topics, because we have the different culture, different backgrounds, different traditions. But from our experience, the cooperation with our Chinese partner is very successful. We work not only with the big companies like Costco or China Merchant or China Railway, but also work with the small companies. But every time the partners treat us very equal, very fair. Also it is not just a one-way street. We ask the partner for some cooperation or for some business, but also in other way, our partner will also come to us with some new ideas. For example, we also discuss about the future of the car industry. We also have a new idea about the transportation of the e-cars, or the transportation of the battery, with how we can combine them with the China trends. It's very interesting. So as the Mr. Stark, our CEO and president in different locations, said before, it is better known initiative. It is not only a chance for us to locate the industry, but also for our industry to open the market, not only in China, but also in the land which is in the Central Asia or in the Eastern Europe. So it's very positive.
So we see if we work together on an economic basis, it helps to understand the partners in the different countries, and therefore it's great to have this Shanghai Autoshow, which shows which close the cooperation in the automotive businesses between China and Europe. Mr. Beck, Rasmus Beck is responsible at Duisburg for the Economic Development Agency. Rasmus, we see that Mercedes, that VW, that BMW are no longer imaginable without China. Almost 40% of the global turnover of these companies come from China. How strongly are German and Chinese companies intertwined in the Ruhr area? Is there still some potential?
Yes, of course. I think there is a rising potential. First of all, I would like to say that in Germany, I would say we have underestimated the chances through a really long-term cooperation with China, and therefore I really appreciate that the state of North Rhine-Westphalia has made a good role within this process. I think, as you can see, right now we have about 1,200 companies in North Rhine-Westphalia with about 10,000 employees, and most of them are located in the Rhine-Ruhr area. And I think this strength in the German-Chinese cooperation is very much based on the logistics. And the logistic is based in Duisburg and in the Ruhr area. And I think with this competitive advantage, we have a good relationship based on real business to China. And of course, I would like to emphasize that the cooperation with China is not only important for China, it is important for Germany, it is important for the automotive industry, it is important for the whole machinery industry and the steel industry here in our region. And I think that the Belt and Road Initiative is providing many possibilities and various chances in this process. And therefore, of course, the port of Duisburg is very important for us. But on the other hand, there are many logistic companies, there are many automotive companies who would like to join the Belt and Road Initiative, and we would like to connect and link them with that process. And we see all of that as a big chance for our region.
So we all want to have this sustainable long-term trade relationships, and cultural change and understanding of the different cultures is very important. Let's come to Klaus Steinmann. Cultural improvements are of great importance for the success of companies. What do you see as the two biggest cultural obstacles to further expand economic cooperation with China?
Yeah, cultural obstacles are a big topic. So maybe first to say is culture eats strategy. So that means it's very important to have the right people to make great strategies happen. So intercultural fit is very important, and what we can see is there are some examples. So it's very important to find the match between the company culture and also the personality of a manager. So some examples. So there's a crash between, on one hand, the Western straightforward way of thinking and straightforward communication. On the other side, the Asian way of very polite and rather a little bit defensive communication. So you have to consider this. You know, this word to keep the face is very important, and you should be aware of it, of course, this understanding. But you always have to consider. That was one example. There's another example, obstacle is risk-taking, for example. So if the company is also very agile, you need someone who is willing also take a risk, and not someone who has a high will to avoid mistakes. Because you have this high will to avoid mistakes, you are standing on the brake. So there are things you have to consider. What is a company culture and what fits best? Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you see, closer to China and Germany means, on the one hand, you need the logistics. You need the new Silk Road. We have that new Silk Road. Second, we need the people who attract the companies in North Rhine-Westphalia, in Germany, but also in China, to work closer together to make the trade, to make the business. And of course, we need the companies who find the right people for the right jobs in the industries. We think we come closer together, and very, very appreciate the discussion with you, Klaus Steinmann, with you, Rasmus Beck, and with you, Mr. Chow, about that topics. Thank you. So, Bea, governmental organizations are very important in China, and to understand China, you have to understand the Communist Party, but also regulatory organizations, and one of the most important regulatory organizations for the car industry is the CATARC. CATARC is making very important statements and is testing cars and is homologating cars for China, but also for other parts in the world. So tell us a little bit about that important organization.
So, well, CATARC is, it started actually as the kind of TÜV, as a homologation administration for overall the homologation of cars and technology. It's not only for cars, but overall for technology to come into China, so to say, creating standards. I think they have partially even a function like our public transport ministry, but that is in another area. So mainly it is really about homologation, technology approach, standards. And every single new car that's coming into China or is launched in China needs to go through the CATARC process. So for example, and I'm not only talking about local manufacturing, even imported cars. So when these cars come into China or being built here, they need to be, free cars at least, need to be sent to CATARC to be fully inspected, something like, 3 years prior to start, and then it goes shorter than as well. But this is a very, very important organization. For what they do in Europe, I think number one, they are active in Europe, and we will hear more about this. But as well, it is now the exchange between the Western or the mature markets, technology departments, because there was a little bit of a, let's say, a divide between what was accepted in China and what was accepted not in Germany. And on the other side, now coming Chinese cars wanting to launch into the China market. So this department gets even, or this commission gets even more important.
So that's interesting, and more interesting is we have an interview with Mr. Hao. Hao is responsible for CATARC in Germany, in Europe, and he will tell us a little bit how the Chinese car makers want to come to Europe and how CATARC and other organizations are supporting. Shanghai Automotive Fair is very important because it gives us an impression of key developments in the Chinese car market and Chinese industry. A very important governmental organization in that context is CATARC, the China Automotive Technology and Research Center. CATARC is the centralized technical organization of the auto industry and the technical supporting body to the relevant national governmental departments in China. It's a great pleasure to have Mr. Hao Guanqi from CATARC with us today. Mr. Hao, cooperation with China is becoming increasingly important for the German automotive industry. From your perspective, what changes will happen to the Chinese automotive market and Chinese automotive industry during the next years?
Professor Dudenhöfer, first thank you for your invitation, and it's an honor to join the interview with you. As we all know, more than 25 million passenger cars were sold in China market in 2020, ranking first in the world for 12 years. Among them, the sales of electric vehicles reached a high record, more than 1.3 million. It's expected that the total vehicle and electric vehicle sales will increase in 2021. I will use ACES for short to present the future changes in Chinese automotive market. A means autonomous, C means connected, E means electrified, and S means shared mobility. To achieve China's carbon neutrality goal, we need more electric vehicles. And meanwhile, we want our cars smarter. So vehicles with autonomous driving and intelligent connected vehicle function will be popular in China. And to spend resource, more and more companies for shared mobility was set up in recent years. And last but not least, the coronavirus changed the Chinese automotive industry. The automated automotive production, informatization, and the diversification of supply chain, connected business management will be the trend for Chinese automotive industry. And the digital economy reshapes the automobile industry. How the automobile industry uses data as the center to organize new innovation subjects and the traditional industry supporting elements is a very important topic for improving industrial competitiveness in China. Thank you.
So what is your suggestion for the German car companies and the German suppliers to further improve the exchange and the cooperation with your very important Chinese market?
Although German brand vehicles have already been the favorite for Chinese customers in China so far, but German OEMs have potential to sell more cars in the open Chinese market in the future. On one hand, German automotive companies should follow the trend in China, ACES, as I mentioned. More smart electric vehicles to meet Chinese customers' requirements will be their focus. And on the other hand, closer cooperation with their Chinese partner and suppliers to ensure their production more effective and their products more attractive.
With the rapid development of the European electric vehicle market, more and more Chinese car makers plan to sell its product in Europe. What do you think of this trend?
Yes, the electric vehicles in Europe developed very fast in 2020. And the European market will be the one of the most important markets for electric vehicles in the world. A lot of Chinese car makers which have electric vehicle products are planning to sell their products in European market. And some of them, like Xiaopeng, like BYD, like Ivy, have already sold their EVs in Europe. And with new design and the new driving performance, their products will have competitiveness in Europe. But first of all, Chinese OEMs should do some research on European market, customers, policies, and regulations. It's very hard to bring their products for Chinese market in Europe without any change. And also, I think the communication and the cooperation with local institutions and experts like you, like Professor Dudenhöfer, good approaches to achieve their aims, their goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hao, for having the chance to discuss with you the very important trends in the Chinese car industry. We appreciate it very much to have you in our discussion. Thank you. So, Bea, we had heard from Mr. Hao from CATARC how important the collaboration is. Now let us talk a little bit about languages, how working together. I know you are perfect in Chinese language. How important is it to have bilingual training to come closer together in the business world for Chinese and for European people?
Well, the point is, on one hand side, English is still not totally rolled out in China to a level that you can really have a business conversation. It seems okay for a normal conversation, but to really discuss detailed problems, you need to be lucky to have somebody who really speaks good English. In Shanghai, in Beijing, in Guangzhou, I think that's not too much of a problem. But if you're, for example, then opening joint ventures or a company in the tier 2 or tier 3 of 4 cities, then it becomes difficult. Speaking perfectly or fluent Chinese is difficult as well. You need to have a long training. Chinese is a very different language to English or to German. So at least trying to understand it, but to be on a business level fluent is quite difficult. So it's two things. Number one, if you're working here, you should be able to speak English. Number two, you need to understand your opposite person, the person you're talking to, might not be perfect in English. And to be honest, not everybody who's not a mother tongue English speaker is perfect. So speak slowly, being repetitive, not assuming that only a nodding is a yes. It's rather like, okay, could you repeat without being asked? It is to be understanding and tolerant that somebody might be not really understanding what you're talking about. So I think this is what mainly it is the cooperation. It is a mutual understanding that there are two different cultures coming together. And I'm now talking more, let's say, the European or German culture and the Chinese culture. And we know all that America, South America is all different cultures. So you're coming into a country with a very old and long-standing established culture, with a language that is very character and visual based. So you need to be tolerant, open, and supportive to the people you're talking to and you're working with, because otherwise they don't want to work with you. But I think we have somebody who can tell us more about this.
Yes, exactly. We are together with the University of International Science, the ISM Science and Management. It's one of the famous German university in business economics. And we are together with Anna Quitt. Anna will tell us a little bit about the cooperation with China, because they have a lot of partner universities in China and they want to train young people, managers, to come closer together to understand more the Chinese culture, but on the other hand also the Chinese, to learn the Chinese and get acquainted with the European culture. So let's listen to Anna Quitt. We are together with Anna Quitt. Anna Quitt is Professor for International Logistics and Supply Chain Management at the International School of Management, ISM. German car makers make up to 40% of their global sales with China. Universities and colleges play a central role in improving mutual understanding and giving managers the right tools for demanding work. Give us an insight into what opportunities ISM offers. How are you represented in China?
So thank you. Now, what we offer is, first of all, for our Chinese students who are interested in studying in Germany, we offer English-speaking full-time studies for the bachelor, but also for the master's degree. And all our programs are international, right? So we cover content which concerns Germany, which concerns Europe, but also which concerns the international, the global context, right? Especially here focusing on the intercultural communication. So Chinese students can come here, can study here. They can also do an internship here, and they also do have the possibility of starting up and maintaining their network, their business network here in Germany and in Europe. Now, for our German or non-Chinese students, we offer to get to know this culture, which means we have cooperations with 10 different universities, partner universities in China, also offering, for example, a double degree program. So this is a great opportunity for our students who are interested in getting to know this culture, this country, to be part of it, to live with it, to get to know it in person. And this is what we are actually really proud of. This is our USP of this intercultural communication between Germans, between European students, and also Chinese students.
So cultural exchange and mutual understanding are very important. How important and how is what you're doing in mixed courses between Germans and Chinese students?
So as I said, well, we are a business school, right? So we focus on business administration. And very important from our understanding is that we focus on all the different competencies, which means we train the technical and methodological competence of all our students, but also the personal and the social competence. So since we do have intercultural classroom settings, we also focus on the intercultural communication part. So therefore, there are modules such as leadership skills, where we discuss in the classroom setting in English, the different approaches, the different management styles, the different cultures that also play a role in that. And of course, we offer also kind of like operating courses on how to negotiate, also what are their differences. And what we get as a feedback from our students is that especially those management courses are very important for their career later on, because it basically opens up their eyes, their perspective on better understanding each other, better mutual understanding, and also for a better success then in their career.
So improved relations are very, very important for car industry. To need the comprehensive picture between the cultures of China, between the cultures of Europe, to understand each other, to work better together. It is very important for us, Anna, to have this small discussion with you on how to proceed in that manner. It's important to have the total picture, and thank you very much for giving that us this morning.
Thank you.
Bea, we had an interesting talk to Belt and Road Initiative, and for Belt and Road Initiative, railways are very important because they tell us that railways help us to make it with less CO2 of the transportation, less CO2 compared, for example, for airplanes or for shippings and all these things. What is the role of railway transportation in China?
I think if you look back 10, 20, even 40 years, the ratio of having railway to the size of the country was actually devastating. It was not much. But then in the recent times, China really put a lot of money to establish and to really expand the railway system. And of course, the high-speed trains, so you get from Beijing to Shanghai within from 4.5 hours. So this is really, really important. And if we just look back 2 weeks ago, when the Suez Canal was actually blocked, this showed again that the direct line over Asia is quite important and could be helpful as an additional alternative.
So let's hear what China Railway in Germany, in Duisburg, is telling us about its initiative, about its business between China and Germany. Thank you. To cooperate in economics, you need logistics. Thus, for the economic cooperation between Germany and China, logistics like the One Belt, One Road initiative are essential. It is a great pleasure to have a one-to-one with Mr. Wen Chang, General Manager of the China Railway Container Transport Company in Europe. Mr. Chang, what could you please share with us some overview of the transportation of cars and auto parts through your China Railway Express, such as route distribution and operational performance?
随着“一带一路”倡议普遍得到国际社会的积极响应和参与，中欧班列在各参与方的共同努力下，自开新以来，运输数量和运输品类均实现了大幅增长。截至2020年，中欧班列从开新初期一年单向17列，发展到一年双向开新12406列，运输品类也从单一的笔记本电脑发展到包括汽车及汽车配件在内的上千种产品。目前，汽车及汽车配件运量已达到275742 TEU， 约占总运量的27%。长春、沈阳、重庆、成都、西安、郑州、武汉、合肥、天津、连云港等15个具有整车进出口口岸功能的城市，以及中欧班列东中西3条通道的班列，都分别提供了整车汽车和汽车零配件的运输服务。
Compared with sea transportation, what are the advantages of transporting complete vehicles by rail between China and Europe?
中欧班列铁路运输通道贯穿欧亚大陆，绵延上万公里，辐射德国等欧洲大部分国家和沿线7个主要国家，是介于空运和海运之间的一种跨欧亚国际联运方式。与海运相比，其具有快捷准时、安全稳定、绿色环保的比较优势。就汽车整车运输而言，中欧班列全程运输时间少，班期密集稳定、绿色安全可靠等特性，应该是汽车产品国际物流供应链的优选方式。目前，中欧班列全程运输时间介于10到17天左右，日均开行已达到36列。采用碳排放量最低的铁路运输方式，避免了海运环境对汽车表面的腐蚀和恶劣气候对运输安全的威胁。
So what are the specific plans or possibilities for China-Europe Express Railway to transport new energy vehicles and batteries in the future?
对，新能源汽车呢，是当今汽车发展的大趋势，具有广泛的发展前景。但汽车动力电池也给保障运输安全带来了极大挑战。中欧班列途经国家多，目前各国铁路也都在电池运输的安全标准和防控措施方面积极开展协调，不断研究完善锂电池运输安全保障措施。CRCT 欧洲公司正在积极推进新能源汽车中欧班列运输，也真诚期望各汽车生产销售企业能与我们积极合作，共同构建安全、稳定、绿色的中欧班列国际物流供应链。谢谢。
Thank you very much, Mr. Zhang. We appreciate it very much to have this insight into the logistics, the important logistics between China and Europe. We are pretty sure that with the new logistics and with the One Belt, One Road initiative, we can come close together in economic relations. Thank you very much. Bea, luxury is very important for Chinese people. So you are in the midst of the luxury brands before the booth of Maserati. Tell us a little bit about luxury in China.
I think the first thing you need to understand is that I think for pretty much every single car brand who is in the luxury or super luxury business, China is the market to be. It is where they have most their sales going in. And you can see this, well, tonight it's already a little bit late, so less people, but you have Porsche with a lot of cars, you have Aston Martin, you have Rolls-Royce, Lamborghini, everybody. And it's not only that you see these cars on the car show, no, you see them everywhere on the road. I think the first Bentayagas or the SUV from Rolls-Royce I ever saw actually here in China. So it is very important. It's to show that you achieved something, that you can show off to others that you're something special, that yes, you could buy a Mercedes, but you go one step beyond, you can afford more, and it is to show off. While it is now with the new government, or the current government, it is to be a bit more careful on showing wealth, but if you earned it and if you pay your taxes, it is fine, and the people love to do it and to show it.
So luxury is very important for China, and the Chinese car market is driven by luxury products. So let us have more insight into the car market and the luxury aspects of the car market with Accenture. The director of the automotive group in China for Accenture is giving us an insight. Good morning, John Wang and Stephen Say from Accenture in Great China. We are happy to have you this morning with us just to discuss a little bit to the Chinese car market. Stephen, the first question to you, what volumes do you expect for the Chinese car market in 2025 and 2023?
Sure, Doctor. So actually, when we look at the actual volume of 2020, I think more or less it landed somewhere around 25 million units, slightly lower than the number in the year before due to COVID-19 impact. But we indeed witnessed a speedy sales recovery in the second half of 2020 after the COVID situation got better. And the trend remained very positive in the beginning of this 2021. So if we do the simple, let's say, projection of putting up the same growth projection as the Chinese GDP, assuming that 6%, then I think we are looking at somewhere around 30 to 35 million units for 2025, and close to 40 to 45 million units when it comes to 2030.
So very optimistic outlook for China, for the largest car market in the world. NEVs and battery electric vehicles is the main instrument, it's the main product for the next 5 and 10 years and thereafter. What do you expect for China with the NEV around 2025 and 2030? What should be, or what could be the market shares in China of this important new vehicle?
Right. Doctor, this question actually came right in time. Interestingly, the Chinese government recently issued a report about NEV industry plan for 2021 to 2035, kind of the 15-year plan. And in the report, basically, we got the forecast around sort of projecting the NEV market share close to 25% when it comes to 2025, and it would further grow to close to 40% in 2030. So this is actually I would say, optimistic as well as a positive plan as released by the central government.
Interesting. Let's look a little bit on car makers and suppliers' direct investments in China, because China pointed out for its next 5-year plan that it will concentrate stronger on the internal economy, on the Chinese customers, on the Chinese economy. do you think that we will see more direct investments in China from European car makers and suppliers? And would it be possible that China will become some kind of hub for electric vehicles in the world, like that was in the States for the SUVs in the last decade?
Yeah, I would personally think that we could expect a more direct investment into the China market. To what extent, I think it might be difficult for me to comment, but I presume that in the upcoming Shanghai Autoshow, you might get some more direct comments from the global executives of the European automakers. But in terms of the sort of view on this market from someone in the market, I would say China is not sort of a new hub. I would say China is currently already a hub. And last but not least, when we look at like even the sort of R&D ecosystems, it starts to change as well. Although R&D is a heavy topic, people here are talking about a consumer-led R&D, a data-driven R&D, in order to accommodate more consumer requirement, consumer needs into the hardcore R&D process, which is something that have never happened before. Ecosystems, not to talk about, but we all know how the ecosystem is sort of unique in the China market, especially in mainland China. And the ecosystem is basically binding the different players and the consumers very closely in the current era, and definitely it will continue so. This is basically my view. Thanks, Doctor.
So that has been 3 days of Shanghai Auto, which we presented to you. Thank you very much, Bea. It was great to have you and giving us this insight into the Chinese market. And next to you is Darren from Nuremberg Messe. Darren, give us some information on future events you are planning.
Yes, it's a very interesting day, and as we already seen that many OEMs are presenting their newest product, especially from the NEV sector, in the center of the booth. So this gives us a good perspective what we will planning to do, especially for this year. In the third quarter, we will continue our successful e-mobility platform, EVTech, together with DS Automotive. I'm very happy and looking forward to our joining hands starting with next year with Car Symposium in front of Auto Beijing as well in April. And yeah, we're looking forward to our first cooperation next year.
So we are looking forward. Bea, I'm looking very much forward to meet you personally next time in Shanghai or in Beijing, and to you, Baron, also. So thank you very much. We appreciate to have you in our reportage.
Thank
you. Greetings to Germany.
Bye-bye.